Hey fight fans, welcome back to the Fight Book. This is the Indian accent guy back with some interesting fight news. Today we have updates from Tom Aspinall's heavyweight news, a bad news from UFC 320 Mexico card, new fight announcements from the UFC as well as in the boxing world, and the results of last night's important fights that matter. So without wasting any time, let's start the video. Let's start it from Tom Aspinall's heavyweight announcements, and that heavyweight announcement was just some random supplement. I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. The petition to strip Jon Jones of the UFC heavyweight title just officially reached 100k signatures. When Ben Askren heard it on Daniel Cormier's show, he accuses DC of signing the petition to strip Jon Jones, but DC immediately denies.
You signed it, didn't you?
I did.
I'm gonna search the database.
I didn't search it.
Jon Jones is, by the way, busy in assembling a dream team of fighters for just $10 and making some new funny skits. Just like Daniel Cormier, Michael Bisping also tells Jon Jones to defend his heavyweight title over Cade because he was given the shot as the youngest champ. Now it is his turn to give others the same chance. Michael Bisping also talks about Vitor Belfort, and he accepts Belfort joining UFC Hall of Fame despite the fact he doesn't like that guy and also lost an eye because of him. Anyway, next we have a bad news from UFC 320 card on September 13th, which is expected to take place in Guadalajara, Mexico. There have been talks of moving UFC 320 from Mexico to the USA amid reports that construction delays have forced Arena Guadalajara to cancel events through September 4th. Now let's talk about some fight announcement, but first something from this weekend's UFC card headlined by Blanchfield versus Barber, because the first announcement is also from this card. Macy Barber in her recent interview calls Aaron Blanchfield a boring fighter, and she also says that she doesn't believe Blanchfield deserved the decision victory over Rose Namajunas. She also says that if she wins on Saturday, she will call for a title shot next. Moreover, UFC athletes will now wear a debut patch on their gear for their first fight in the UFC. After the bout, the patch will go into 1x1 signed trading card. Andreas Gustafsson will be the first athlete in the UFC history to wear a UFC debut patch this weekend. And last from this card, Markel Medeiros is out of his lightweight bout against Bolaji Oki, and replacing him is a former Fury UFC featherweight champion who had lost his opportunity last year at Dana White's Contender Series via split decision, Michael Aswell, who is currently riding only one fight win streak and was scheduled to face his opponent at Fury UFC on June 20th. Next, the UFC officially announced their UFC Nashville card on July 12. Plus, 3 new fights are also announced for the card, and 2 of them we already knew because these were the rumors. First one was a light heavyweight bout between Junior Tapa versus Tuco Tacos, and the second one was a middleweight bout between Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. The fight no one knew about was a welterweight bout which is announced, where Chidi Ajukwani will be back to get his 4th straight victory after moving down to the welterweight division against Jake Matthews, who is also riding a 2-fight win streak of his own. Then the last fight announcement is a women flyweight bout which is added on UFC 319 card headlined by Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Number 11 ranked UFC flyweight Karine Silva will return after losing to Viviane Araujo, this time against number 15 ranked JJ Aldrich. Other than these UFC fight announcements, there is a former UFC fighter Kevin Lee who has signed with PFL, and he will be fighting Gadji Rabanov on June 20th at 2025 PFL tournament semifinals in Kansas. Lee is replacing JJ Wilson, who is out of this bout due to an injury, and if Lee's career wasn't over already, it sure will be after that fight because Rabanov is a killer. Now let's talk about the results of last night's fights. First, The Ultimate Fighter 33 episode 1 was telecasted on ESPN, where first pick of both coaches in the flyweight tournament collided in the end of that episode. The underdog Joseph Morales submits LFA flyweight champion Eduardo Chapolin with a rear naked choke in the first round to move to the semifinals of the flyweight tournament. Next week on June 3rd, the first 2 welterweights will square off as Team Cormier's Daniil Donchenko battles Team Sonin's Richard Martins. Moreover, there was a last Pride FC 108 card in Kazakhstan where former UFC champ Henry Cejudo fought against Kairat Akhmedov in a grappling bout, and he tops former One Championship flyweight title holder in a 5-minute grappling contest. He then gifts his UFC belt to the son of the Alash Pride president. It would be safe to assume that he got paid. Anyway, overall the card was a good one where Damir Ismagulov shines in the main event with a KO victory over ex-UFC fighter Alan Patrick. Renan Barao versus Arman Aspinall ends in a grappling draw, hinting at a potential MMA rematch, and Salamat Izbulaev achieves his 9th consecutive victory and moves to 9-0 with 9 finishes. In the boxing world, we had 2 title fights in Kanagawa, Japan. Suga Eduardo Nunes defeats Masanori Rikishi in the co-main event of the card by unanimous decision to win the vacant IBF super featherweight title. Anyway, as soon as Suga Nunes got the first world title, the man who had vacated this belt, Anthony Kakachi, reacts to his win and asked his promoter for make an offer for Nunes. Moreover, WBC number 7 ranked undefeated super featherweight prospect Ryan Gardner and his opponent Reese Bellotti face off ahead of their super featherweight clash in Bournemouth on July 26th. Queensberry also added another ranked super featherweight fight on this card where 14-0 undefeated prospect Royston Barnes-Smith will be facing 12-0 IBF number 12 ranked Danny Quatermaine in a step-up fight. Anyway, let's move back towards our ranked card in Japan, where in the headliner, Yoshiki Takai stops Yutapong Tongdi in round 1 to retain his WBO bantamweight world title. It was his second defense and he dropped his opponent 3 times to get that TKO victory in round 1. Anyway, another Japanese, Seiya Tsutsumi, the WBA bantamweight champion, is out due to an injury and WBA has named him as the champion in recess. With Tsutsumi being the champion in recess, interim champion Antonio Vargas has been elevated to the full champion. And that was all important news from the fight world. In some random updates, Matt Brown says that he thinks the reason UFC didn't give Movsar Evloev his title shot is because his lack of popularity. Khalil Roundtree Jr. says he is ready to pay $100K just to have a British accent. Boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. wants to train Ilia Topuria for his UFC 317 clash with Charles Oliveira as he believes it would really make a lot of difference. Sean Strickland, who is currently training with Mike Perry, says that a fresh Alex Pereira could take out Ankalaev. BJ Penn, who was arrested on May 25th for offensive physical contact after a household abuse incident took place, and then he was released on a 2K bail and was scheduled for court today. Now BJ Penn's mother files restraining order after these disturbing series of incidents. She is seeking a 6-month restraining order and court-mandated medical treatment for Penn after 2 arrests in 2 days for abuse of a family member. And then last but not least, in a new video where Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski can be seen training together, you can see Volkanovski rejecting Israel Adesanya's handshake. Still, that recovery from the style bender was smooth as hell. Now you are again up to date with the fight world completely. Now it's your turn. Do me a favor, just like the video and then share your thoughts in the comment section. That's the motivation. Then you can do whatever you want.